This is Christine with Shortcut to Happiness at the Conscious Life Expo 2020. We are here with
Elizabeth HeartStar. Hi. Thank you.
She is from Sedona, and she has some interesting tales to tell and journeys. We will be meeting her very, very special friend in a moment. But first, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think is the secret or the key to happiness?
Love. Loving the self. For me, meditation has always been my happy place.
Now, people define love in many different ways. So what are some of the ways that you define love?
Expansive, blissful, feeling one and connected to the all.
That's really nice. And you get there through meditation. Is there other ways you get there sometimes?
Yes, I think just the beauty of people in the world and life.
You know, if we all had that attitude, this would be a beautiful, beautiful planet. So what is it? Where are you from, right? You're Sedona. And what have you been doing? And tell the audience where they can contact you. And then we'll talk about your friend.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I started meditating when I was 15, and that's why I say, for me, meditation just brings me to center, and I feel like it's a natural evolving of who you naturally are. And so I became a TM. It was Transcendental Meditation, which most people have heard about because the Maharishi brought it and the Beatles made it big, and Susan wrote a book about it, Maharishi and Me, and it turned a lot of young people like myself on to opening up, and I had incredible experiences. My parents didn't understand because I was born in a Jewish family, and I had a visitation of Christ that changed my life, and I thought I was supposed to be a nun. Right? It's like I was only 15. What do you do? And they thought I was on LSD and sent me to psychiatrists. Anyways, we won't go into the whole story.
Right.
But it opened me to spirit, and so I was on a spiritual path, and I wanted to share that with other teenagers. So I became a TM teacher at 19. Then I was going to go live in London because I lived in the meditation center, and I cooked for the Maharishi a couple times when he came to London, and but I came back to Los Angeles, and then I got into interesting 70s experiences. I don't know if you heard of the Source restaurant.
No.
Okay, well, that was, the 70s was an interesting time.
Okay.
Anyways, I was in Sedona when I was 12 and 13 years old, and that was in the 60s, before anyone had heard of Sedona. There's a prep school still there, a wonderful school called Verde Valley School. And I used to ride horses all around, and I always loved Sedona. And then I came back to Los Angeles, and I had a flower business, a successful flower business. And then my cousin came to Sedona, Helene, with the woman who put Sedona on the map, actually, the medium named Paige Bryant, who, when she came, she felt the vortexes.
Oh, yeah.
And so so my cousin phoned me in 1987 and said, Elizabeth, it's the harmonic convergence. You've got to come to Sedona. Everybody's coming. And I hadn't been since the 60s. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And it was on, the Red Rocks that I heard Sedona say, come home to Sedona. Well, I had my successful flower business. So I was like, well, when I'm ready, when I retire, right, which is never, then I'll, come to Sedona. Well, 3 years later, Spirit brought me back to Sedona, and I've lived in Sedona since the spring of 1990, which is a beautiful place, a sacred place with incredible energies. I feel it's like the root of the earth. That's my experience. You know, people put chakra. I do chakra tours of Sedona that my friend had. He was a geomancy. But for me, Sedona, it calls people home.
Yes.
Calls people home. And I feel like 2020 is 2020 vision, and we're being called back to where our mission is.
Yes.
And for some reason, I'm being called back to Los Angeles, where I was born.
And I am being called back to Sedona on a mission.
We're trading places, which is so cool.
So you do the tours. Have you had incredible experience? Do you have odd lights? You know, do you do this at night, during the day?
I've had amazing experiences, you know, in the almost 30 years that I've been in Sedona. I really experienced the crystal city that is in the etheric, that is Sedona. Many people call it a part of Lemuria because the earth was so different then. Mm-hmm. I always feel Hawaii, where I lived for 12 years, is very Lemurian.
I think Hawaii is Lemurian.
I do too. That's for me. But people do, and you can see seashells in Sedona. And when you hike some places in the rocks, you can actually see, because it was millions, billions, I don't know how long ago, under the ocean. But it's an incredible place. And these dolphins appeared to me in this canyon in Sedona. It's etheric, this dome rock turned into a crystalline dome, and these light beings were in a circle, and I experienced this like DNA energy coming in the center of the circle, which became the being of Sanat Kumara and Lady Venus. And they, like, Venus is the sister of the earth, of our earth, and she's brought the honeybees to the earth to help pollinate and bring us honey. And honeymoon is because it was the first drink was honey, and it's the greatest healing. So I've been guided I was guided in 2007 when I heard the bees were dying and declining all over the world, and I was devastated, and I was praying, and I went to the cave, first woman in Sedona, and in this prayer, that's when these beings appeared in this crystalline. And the next day in meditation at about 3 a.m., which is when I usually meditate with my friend, what I would think that it would, being in a beehive would sound like, in my meditation, I was in a hive. All I know is it was that buzz and because I had been praying for the bees for a week, like, what can I do for the bees? And I hear this little voice going, do ceremonies for the bees in Avebury, which is the largest stone circle in Europe, which is in England, where most of the crop circles appear for a good reason, for the bees. And I was like, okay, what's a bee ceremony? So I did bee ceremonies, and there will be one autumn equinox of 2020. I did them for many years, and the bees always came, because I was like, well, what's a bee ceremony? Oh, well, I guess they fly in figure 8, and they communicate with a little wiggle dance where they tell their hive mates where to go for right. And so I did a figure 8 altar for the bees, and I put it out of flowers. And I put all the things that bees create, the propolis, the royal jelly, beeswax, honey, all of, bee pollen. And I was like, okay, I just let spirit take over. And it was always a different, I would be told in either a dream or through the astrology, because I've been an astrologer since I was 16 years old. That was like over 50 years ago. And the bees always came, so I knew I was doing, usually 60 to 200 people would show up too outside in the moon circle of Avebury, the largest stone circle that's the mother temple.
Right.
Yeah. And so the bees. But it was in the cave, and it was seeing in Sedona, and it was seeing these light beings, and Lady Venus and Sanat Kumara asking for help that help is needed in order to ascend and bring the Earth into her balance of love with her sister Venus.
There's many dimensions going on here, and different beings from different dimensions have certain abilities. We can ask them for help, and they can ask us for help, and we all work together.
Yes, I know. And so the bees are our greatest teachers and our greatest healers, because without them, there wouldn't be a lot of food or flowers or honey or sweetness, and they know how to work for the goddess.
That's beautiful. Well, we're going to do a follow-up interview introducing her friend and some information that you might not know about. But before we end off, please tell our audience how they can follow your work and your social sites.
I haven't been, very socially media savvy. However, I am on Facebook, and my name is Elizabeth HeartStar. And I have a website, Astro-Oracle.com, as well as AvalonJourney.com. I've been taking groups to England's sacred sites since 1995, and Merlin is one of my guides, and magic always happens. And I do have a Stargate Merlin journey. I have a few spaces left for May, and if you have a calling to it, it's really important work for. We've been working with the new crystalline grid, the new timelines, the new beings, the new divas are all here with us. The earth and the fairies and everyone are really excited about the new earth that we have been creating. And so I hope that you'll join me. I actually have StargateMerlin.com is the website, and I have, like I said, a few spaces left for it. I only take small groups of up to 12 people, and it's really beautiful work, and I would love to have you join us. So thank you. Thank you, Christine.
It sounds like a blast. I love going to sacred sites. Absolutely. This is Christine with Shortcut to Happiness. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon, including Elizabeth introducing her recent new friend, who is very interesting. I enjoy being with you.